Welcome to the ROTOJOES Fantasy Football Podcast, guys. It's already week 16. We are 1 week away from most fantasy championships. We're 2 weeks away from the end of the season. A lot to talk about here. Before we get into any fantasy football or betting stuff, though, let's talk about the 49ers long-term quarterback situation. In the room right now, as we speak, we have Jimmy Garoppolo, going to be a free agent. I assume he's gone. He probably earned a paycheck from a team like the Jets. Trey Lance, still on his rookie deal. Last year had one game. He played 2 games, but got hurt pretty quick in the second. 31 pass attempts, 48% completion percentage, 1 interception, no touchdown. And then you have Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, their starter right now. 3 starts, 84 passing attempts, 69 nice completion percentage, and a 6-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. Who's the starter day 1 next year?
Who is it, or who should it be?
Does Purdy ever overtake Lance? Let's just start there.
I think so. Long term, I don't think he's the day 1 starter because they just have too much draft capital in Lance. But do I think he's the better quarterback? Absolutely. He's playing out of his fucking mind. No one even gave him a shot. You know, they kind of thought, oh, Jimmy's down, the team's done. I think they're better with him. I think he's Jimmy G with a little bit of swagger. You know what I mean? Guy that can go out and, play. Now, he's not an elite physical prospect. I mean, he's not – athleticism isn't off the charts, but neither was, Tom Brady. And I'm not trying to compare Brock Purdy to Tom Brady, but there are a lot of similarities in a guy that's not super athletic but can win football games for you. And I think that's what Shanahan wants, but I think the front office will eventually – I think they'll make him play Trey Lance at the beginning, but I bet you he's on a short leash next year.
Yeah, the thing about the offense is you really just have to be a competent quarterback in terms of processing and be able to put the ball on a dime 10 yards and in. And Purdy, through his short time, has done that pretty well. Trey Lance, you hope the completion percentage would go up, but there's a lot of like Jordan Love, Zach Wilson, a guy who played at the lower level, had one really good year. You didn't see a lot out of there, very raw. I'm not so sure that guy's ever going to work out, honestly. And every time he's been on the field, you kind of wonder, you're left wanting more from him in both running and pass game. I just don't think he'll ever – I'm sure he does start, but I don't think he'll ever catch on. What a waste of 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, and that seems to be the way it is. And, when you relate that to your fantasy leagues, he probably, if you're in a super flex, he probably went top 3. If I had to guess that year. What a bummer for those people that took him.
With analysts for flex.
He was
a first round super flex pick. And both of the league other analysts.
Yeah. Early pick too, some. And that's another thing. You just can't really get on the hype until you see the results sometimes. And I understand why people were excited about it, but it just hasn't panned out, and I'm not certain it's ever going to. I mean, Brock Purdy's young. He's doing exactly what they need him to. They're loaded at offense outside of him. I think their best bet's to continue the train, and honestly, in the NFC, they very well could come out.
Jimmy Garoppolo can come back is what I've heard around 2nd, 3rd week of the playoffs, so right around the conference championship, hopefully. Purdy could get them there. The NFC sucks. The Eagles are there. I made a tweet about them the other day. They're just bad. Not bad, but they're a very mediocre team that had a very easy schedule. Vikings are whatever the Vikings are. They win games, but you leave wondering how exactly they won them. Outside of that, Tampa Bay is old. I really do. I think San Francisco is the Super Bowl team this year out of the NFC with their roster of players.
I agree. I think they're like I think the Eagles can compete, but I think ultimately the 49ers just are a little bit deeper than the Eagles and should be able to beat them in a conference championship. So I agree. I think they might come out.
So while we let Coffee McCofferton, Caden's sick, he's not doing that intentionally. While we're on the topic of playoff teams and the 49ers, let's talk about playoff seeding. 2 weeks left, so this is real formative. Right now in the AFC, clinching a playoff spot, Bills, Chiefs, Bengals. Sounds about right. Those should be the three teams that have. In the NFC, you have the Eagles, the Vikings, the Niners, the Cowboys, and that's it. Out of those 7 teams, so the 3 AFC and the 4 NFC, Bills, Chiefs, Bengals, Eagles, Vikings, Niners, Cowboys. What's the Super Bowl matchup?
I'm definitely going to go 49ers, and I could see it either be Chiefs or Bills, and you could really flip a coin on that one. I think those games are always, or depending on how it seeds out, because I assume they'd be 1 and 2, so they probably wouldn't meet till the conference finals. So you could really flip a coin on that one just about any time they play each other. It's just really whoever gets the ball last. I do think the Chiefs might have a little bit of an edge because I'm still not 100% certain Josh Allen's healthy. I think they edge him out maybe if that doesn't resolve itself in the next few weeks, or because he just hasn't looked like regular Josh Allen. It's been kind of great value lately from him. So I mean, they're winning games. Of course, they're going to. Their roster's built that way, but just hasn't looked like that MVP front runner that he did the first half of the season.
Yeah, I think that injury's really bothered him. That's a tough one. I would probably go Chiefs and Niners as well, and that'll be a really good game. I hope Jimmy G's back for that, but let's be real honest. The way Spags calls a defense, Brock Purdy could beat them. They get up to 1-2 score. They could win, but it would probably be close. Mahomes is of a level that it doesn't really matter how much they're down in a game like that. They're always going to have a chance to win, but the Niners could pull it out with the roster they have. Now, moving on to these conditionals right now, teams that are on the bubble trying to make it in. Do you think the Titans or the Jaguars make it in out of the AFC South?
I really am starting to believe the Jaguar hype. I mean, they're out there winning games. It's not pretty all the time, but I think they've got a better roster. Maybe outside of the running back position than the Titans do. I think they're being coached very well. I think they got a lot of fight in them, and I think the Jaguars sneak in. They're not. I mean, Tennessee's not going to lose this week. They play Houston. We know how that goes. But they're one loss away from that division shifting at this point. So it's real close, and I think ultimately the Jaguars are just playing better. They got some grit to them. Trevor Lawrence is looking like who we thought he was. ETN's looking good. It doesn't matter. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is quickly developing into that kind of quarterback who could take a guy like Zay Jones and throw him 3 touchdowns in a game.
He's arrived.
Yeah, he has.
He's so good.
Yeah, and we all knew it. We just didn't know how long. First season, everybody was worried, and myself included. I was like, oh, shit, did the Jaguars fucking ruin another one? Because they've had really highly drafted guys over the years that were supposed to be maybe not Trevor Lawrence level of can't miss type of prospect, but they had some good prospects go through that they just absolutely ran into the dirt. So, yeah, I mean, my concern level was there going into this year, but you always knew he had the capability. It's just when it clicked, and I'm happy for him that it did. I've always been a Trevor Lawrence fan. Really wanted him to go to Houston, but that's the way that shit goes.
As a Trevor Lawrence dynasty owner who bought low and then got CeeDee Lamb back from the guy later, I've liked what I've seen. It's been pretty good. Yeah, the Titans. I have the Jaguars etching out that division too. The Titans are 7-7. The Jaguars are 7-8. So if the Titans lose this week, which I don't think they will, but Houston's been scrappy these last 2 or 3 weeks. You never know. I like Jacksonville even with the Titans win this week. It's looking like week 18 Titans versus Jags will be for the division. And you got to think Trevor Lawrence going to want to win that. That's huge.
Oh,
If they playoffs this year after being 2-6 at one point, that is huge. Now let's move on to the NFC side of things. The AFC, Ravens, Chargers, Dolphins probably going to make it in outside of the Titans and the rest of those wild card spots. You have the Jaguars again trying to move up. The Patriots, who we don't deserve to make it, but I could see a universe where we do, and we'll get the shit kicked out of us in Buffalo for a second straight year. But we'll make it.
Quick, explain to me what happened on that last play against the Raiders. I just don't. I don't understand.
Everyone's blaming Jacoby Myers. Which I understand. He did some dumb shit. He played quarterback in college at one point. I think he had a little flashback, saw Mac open, just fucking flung it. Now there's questions here like, why are you throwing to a white guy? That doesn't end well usually. However, I get it, Mac open. But Ramondre started that. I think that what made Jacoby freak out is the fact that Ramondre pitched it back to him in a stupid situation. And after that,
understandably, you can blame Ramondre a little bit on that one, but if he felt that way, why didn't he just run out of bounds? You know what I'm saying?
Down.
Huh?
Why didn't he just go down? He was about to get tackled. He could have just went down.
Yeah,
if he doesn't do that first, the rest of it doesn't happen. So I'm blaming Ramondre.
So here's my thing: is think about what Chandler Jones was thinking. Like, what the fuck? Is that the ball? Holy shit. Like, there's no way he even really thought that was going to happen. And then there's a couple players I really like on the Raiders team because Max Crosby's, he's one of them dudes, and he just fucking levels Jacoby Myers after that or just throws him down like a little boy, and then 5 seconds later, Mac Jones gets plummeted into the fucking earth.
Man, let's talk about Mac. That dude is a little bitch. And I just don't like the guy. Now, I understand the frustration with the Matt Patricia-led offense. However, he's in his second year, and he hasn't played great either year. He played okay last year. Everyone hyped him up because, you saw Trevor Lawrence play like shit, and he's so good that Mac having a decent year was really uplifting. And now he's over there coming off the field throwing bitch fits because what's working isn't working. And it's like, well, to some extent, Mac, he can't throw past 15 yards, and that's an issue. And at some point, we're going to have to figure that part out before you can stop bitching. I don't like him. I'm done with him, dude. Tired of him.
And
playoffs. 7-7. Washington 7-6-1. They're in right now. The Giants 8-5-1. They're in right now. Who makes that 7th seed out of Giants, Washington, and the Lions? 2 out of 3 make it.
Oh, I 2 out of the 3, I'm going to go Giants, and I'm going to go Lions.
Green Bay is a game back. So if they win out and Washington and the Giants lose 2 games, Green Bay can make it. So I think I have the Lions in Green Bay as long as they don't play each other these last 2 weeks.
I like the story, but I'm just not convinced Green Bay is sound enough to, and I don't know their schedule off the top of my head.
I'm trying to up fast, quickly, as we talk, because I'm curious. I actually want to see how this shakes out.
Because who does Green Bay play this week? Someone they're probably going to beat.
Green Bay plays Miami this week in Miami.
Oh, yeah, no, never mind.
So, yeah. They can win this one. They then have to come up on. They will then play the Vikings. So they have the Dolphins, the Vikings, and the Lions. So 3 games left for them. They could beat the Vikings and the Lions, but then the Lions probably don't. Well, they could. It's going to be really close. There's going to be probably a really shitty team in there. Maybe it's Green Bay. Maybe it's Washington or New York. there's going to be a really fucking bad team that makes it in there somehow. Just going to be, who is it?
Right. Hold on one second.
So, as we move on from talking about playoff situations in the NFL, we are going to jump over into playoff situations in fantasy football. Mainly, say you're in a dynasty league. I'll use a real life example. I am right now in the number 1 seed in a dynasty league. I am playing a team that is very hot and cold, but has the potential to match my firepower in terms of how my team performs. So I went out and I try to think of myself as a smart dynasty player. My dynasty teams, I'll have usually young quarterback, young wide receivers, running back. They fucking cycle out so fast. I don't care about those guys. I'm going to trade them in a year anyways. Tight ends, I have young tight ends too that are elite. Njoku, Ingram, and Andrews, which is actually pretty nice over these next 3 or 4 years. But anyways, running backs old, everyone else young. I went out and traded Michael Thomas, who's essentially just burning up a roster spot. No one really knows if the guy's ever going to come back and play a full, even 8 games, never mind getting to 16. I went out and traded Michael Thomas for Jerick McKinnon, a guy that's put up 30 points. He's essentially the wide receiver 2 in Kansas City right now, which is a guy that I like a lot, that I want a lot of. I feel like things like that, trading away a sunk cost Michael Thomas for Jerick McKinnon, putting up RB1 numbers over the last 2 weeks with really, really high usage over the last 7 or 8 with no Clyde Edwards-Helaire, is a really good way to bolster your team without fucking it, especially when we start talking about how much weather there is this week. I mean, 4 or 5 of these games are just fucked weather-wise. A lot of wind, a lot of rain. Probably like I pivoted off of Christian Kirk for McKinnon is essentially why I made that trade. So thinking about ways you can trade sunk costs, maybe prospective guys that haven't proven a lot, for some of these older veterans who might only have 2 or 3 games of actual worth. McKinnon, I could see a world where McKinnon comes back and plays really well next year in a spot role, like a 3rd down back role with Kansas City. But anyways, really like that McKinnon for him team. It's something for these contenders to think about, especially Saturday morning. Everyone's off of work. You can probably try to sling a trade.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good time to make those kind of moves because I understood that one from both sides. 2 guys that in reality, there's a scenario I see where neither one of them are worth a single fuck next year. But on your end, you're competing and you're adding a piece that might actually do something for you. This other guy's not competing, and it's just an aging asset. So, like that one both ways. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you got to wonder with McKinnon, it'd be wise for him to stay in Kansas City, but you also wonder what kind of mindset that player has. Dude, my fucking phone is about to die, and I don't know what's going on. Give me 1 second.
All right, so I don't know how to edit, so I'm just going to freeform talk. This is a fun little blooper, but hey, this is how it goes. So other guys that we can kind of think about jumping off on this, who can I add for 2 or 3 games and get some real value, and then nothing fucking past that ever? Taysom Hill might be a guy that you can come on strong with. He has a really good matchup this week in Cleveland, in the rain, in the wind, in the snow, in freezing wind chill temperatures. Taysom Hill's a guy that you can probably get for fuck all, who might put up a touchdown, 40 yards, which plays in the winter right now. A big A.J. Dillon, and a guy in redraft if you have no trade deadline, which is weird, but I've seen A.J. Dillon might be a guy to target in Green Bay. Again, cold weather, you're going to see a lot more pounded out run game. That's a guy maybe look at. In Dynasty Leagues, he's cheap too. The guy's done fucking nothing. Aaron Jones could come back and be all right. However, A.J. Dillon right now has got nothing going for him. So you might be able to swing a deal for him in a Dynasty League and get a couple weeks' worth. Is your phone good?
I don't know. We'll find out. I don't know why it's not charging, but trying a different chord here.
Talking about Taysom Hill and A.J. Dillon being buy low targets potentially for a playoff run. In accordance with McKinnon. And McKinnon probably won't have any value next year. He's a guy who's been injury prone in the past. Again, I could see him in a third down role. I'd actually really like that. But you just don't know with guys like that.
Right, absolutely. I think there's a lot of value around some of those type of guys, and you can trade maybe a third round pick and have some of them because it gives that other team the possibility of maybe doing something with that for a guy that they may not have in the plans for next year. A lot of good situations where you can get some value for next to nothing and kind of help push you over the edge because some leagues are close, some leagues aren't. I don't think ours is particularly close. I think probably the 4 teams that are left in it are probably the best 4 teams, and the other 8 are kind of hit or miss. So
there's a fun wrinkle to our dynasty league, our home dynasty league. We are all related. Well, you and I are related, not everyone. You and I are related. We go to the same family gatherings and all that good stuff. We are doing our Christmas at 3:00, which tomorrow we have a full slate of games while we're recording tonight. I am playing my stepdad, who will also be there for the spot in the championship. So a lot of shit talking is going to happen. I'm very ready. And we're going to have Red Zone on. It's my birthday. We're watching what I want to watch. So it'll be quite a good time. Moving on, talking about betting locks. Your first lock, Bengals at Patriots under 41.5.
Yeah, for me, it's just you mix in the Patriots defense with what I believe to be bad weather. I just don't see this one being a high-scoring game. Mac Jones can't really score the ball when it's sunny and 75. 41 seems like a lot, and that's just kind of where my head was going with this one. I feel like it's going to be a pretty easy win for Cincinnati. Hopefully, Mac Jones can kind of recoup some of his composure after that really hard to watch. We just talked about it, but ultimately, I just don't see this one being a high-scoring game. Love Ramondre in this one. I think it's going to be a heavy dose of him. Just 41 just seems like a lot for this game. I don't think it's going to take the Bengals much to really put it away, and I mean that respectfully.
Yeah, I think we're going to get beat pretty bad. It's sad. We're in purgatory right now. As a fan, the way I view sports, and this includes fantasy football, and call me a fucking bitch if you want. Some people act like you're a bitch if you do this. If I'm not first, I want to be last because I want the highest draft pick. That has, especially in a keeper league or a rookie draft situation, that has a lot of value. So I want that. That's what I want. I want the easy 4th keeper. And so I am very much of the opinion that you might as well be bad so you get as much talent, as much opportunity as you can. Right now in New England, we're not doing that at all because it's not Bill Belichick's nature. I don't think, maybe his last year we tear it down, but I don't think until then we'll do that. Mac's not good. He's late Atlanta Matt Ryan at his best. At his best. And that's stretching it. That's like if he's having a really good game. So don't like Mac. Ramondre's okay. He just gets volume. He's like skin. He's I catch passes LeGarrette Blount. Kind of. So I like him, but I don't love him. Wide receiver talent. I like Jacoby Myers. I like Devontae Parker, kind of. I like Tyquan Thornton, kind of. No one's an alpha, and I don't think we're going to get that guy anytime soon based off our history. So, yeah, we're probably going to lose to the Bengals, but then I bet somehow we won our last 2 games. And I think one of those is in Buffalo. And we're going to make the playoffs, and then we're going to lose by 40 in the playoffs. And then it's all going to happen again next year when we have the most cap room, unless we trade for Aaron Rodgers or Tom comes back.
I mean, there's going to be, in my opinion, a lot of teams with – I think you're going to see a lot of veteran quarterbacks move this offseason. Like you just said, Jimmy Garoppolo could end up on the Jets, and I could see that happening real quick because that's, a major improvement for that team. I think it'd be hard to imagine Aaron Rodgers an Aaron Rodgers trade actually working without some team just giving up way too much for a guy that's 39 years old, or 40 even at this point. Like,
two firsts and Mac. Who says no?
Hopefully the Patriots. For what, a 1-year rental on a team that's not ready?
I don't know. I feel like with Aaron Rodgers, that wide receiver group looks a whole hell of a lot better.
Well, yeah, I mean it's an improvement, yes, but I don't think, I would, if I was him and I was trying to get traded, I'd be looking at a trade to San Francisco. I'd be looking at a trade to what's another one? Yeah, San Francisco.
Las Vegas. Las Vegas.
Yeah. Maybe hook up with his boy Devontae again. Yeah, I can see Derek Carr getting moved. He's got a big contract and they're not doing very well. I bet there's a lot of veteran quarterback movement, and I think a lot of that's going to have to do with the draft and who lands where, and then kind of after that, maybe we see some things happen. But sorry, I've had the fucking plague lately. But they do need to upgrade a quarterback. I saw something the other day, and it was the rankings of the quarterbacks coming out of high school that were drafted that year. And someone screenshotted it, and it was Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, 1 and 2 that year. And this guy was like, I can't believe it's so shocking to everybody that these are the only 2 that are any good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot said about not every time you do have like Josh Allen's of the world, but 95% of the time how someone's ranked in high school has some type of correlation to NFL success.
Well, Davis Mills was the number 1 quarterback the year he came out of high school, and we all saw how that's going. So
he had weird injuries though too. That wasn't all just him fucking up.
Yeah, and I understand the passing game needs some work, and there's a lot of problems, but he's not helping his case at all.
He hasn't even looked kind of like last year. He looked solid at points.
He
Hasn't looked. I was sneaky high on that whole Texans offense. Kind of makes me sad. I've learned a lot this year.
Yeah, I was really high on it too, even more so than years prior, because I thought it was just one that was getting slept on. But it took me 1, maybe 2 weeks to realize, like, oh, yeah, we're fucked. And it's bigger than the roster. Like, I don't think Lovey's a good coach. I think Pep Hamilton's fucking up a lot. I really liked Pep Hamilton going into the year. I think we gotta wash and rinse and start over. I'm kind of that thought that, like, we've got to stop letting head coaches wear multiple hats, like Lovey being the defensive coordinator and the head coach. You got to do one or the other until you can prove you can do that. That's kind of my thought. I think Belichick and Shanahan and those type of guys kind of earn that role, but you're a 1-14 team or whatever we are, 1-12-1 right now. I can't remember. And we put up a good fight in some games, but dude, we're out there cycling out Davis Mills and Jeff Driscoll. Like, shit's bad. We're down bad.
College offense.
Kind of. XFL offense is what we're doing.
Hey, maybe it works.
Yep. Maybe it does.
All right. My first lock, Taysom Hill anytime touchdown versus Cleveland. This one's at plus 310, so I really like those odds. So, in Cleveland, there's a winter storm warning until 10. As everywhere other than Miami, there's negative wind chill temperatures. It's fucking cold everywhere.
Yep.
Andy Dalton's not going to be able to throw in this weather. Alvin Kamara doesn't run down the middle. There's 50-mile-per-hour winds, regular, not just huge gusts, but regular 50-mile-per-hour winds around kickoff. Taysom's going to be used a lot. It would not shock me if he ends up finishing the game at quarterback. It really wouldn't. They don't like running Kamara down the middle. They had David Johnson on the field last week. He might get carried off in a stretcher if he plays too much. And I mean that the best way possible.
Yeah, no, I know.
And he's going to see, if they get to the goal line, I bet he's the one that carries it in.
And it's frustrating as fuck because I have Kamara in a league and I watch this shit all the time. Like, not that I actually watch the games, but you know how you're in the app and you're like 1st and 1 from the 1. And you're like, hey, I have Alvin Kamara. This should be 6, right? I've seen this so many fucking times. And then Andy Dalton throws it to that goddamn tight end like he's the only son of a bitch out on the field. It is so fucking frustrating. Not even Taysom Hill, the other one.
DeJuan Johnson, yeah.
Yeah, dude, that guy, yeah, he's racking them up because every time I seem to be watching it, I'm like, oh, great. Like, that's the only guy you fucking see. And, yeah, I think New Orleans has got way more problems than they know what to do with. I mean, their offseason is going to be very key in figuring out what the fuck is that organization's going to be. Are they going to go back to the days before Drew Brees where they were, you know, bad of Houston Texans type of levels? Or are they going to get their shit together? But yeah, Kamara, he's almost not startable, but he also goes for – he'll bust a big game every now and then. So you probably got the draft stock in him. You probably don't at this point in the season with all the injuries. You probably don't have a hell of a lot better options, but I just temper those expectations.
Yeah, I was really high on Kamara as a buy low, and it just never worked out. I think he probably gets suspended next year for the first 4 games. He might just never be the same. Do you think that the Eagles would trade the Saints their first-round pick back for Alvin Kamara in like a 3rd?
I do not. Hell no. And it's nothing against Alvin Kamara, but he's aging. You know what I mean?
Smart. They're well.
You know, these guys, once they hit 30, we're close to, he's 28, 29 years old right now. It's hard to give up a first-round pick when you can go out there and get Jahmyr Gibbs probably real easy.
I like Jahmyr Gibbs. All right. Your next lock. You have the Raiders +2 versus the Steelers in Pittsburgh.
Yes, I do. Raiders have gotten kind of hot lately, just a little bit. Them getting Devontae more involved in the passing game has really paid dividends for them. I understand they got lucky to win last week, but they kind of just edged out some teams. Do I think they're a better team than Pittsburgh? I do, actually. Now, if McDaniels fucks that up, that wouldn't surprise me either, but I love a +2 line for a team that I would really favor to win that game. We don't know Kenny Pickett. Is he out of the concussion protocol?
I'm not sure. It's a good thing if he is, because it's going to be like negative wind chill and 20-mile-per-hour winds, and his tiny little female hands can't handle that potentially.
Well, look, dude, I got tiny little hands too, and I'll tell you something. Like this weather, so we're in Kansas. I know we've talked about this. This shit's fucking ridiculous these last few days. Like, so I grew up in Texas, but my move for the last, however many years I've lived here is I go to my truck and I turn on the defroster, right? And I'll just let it sit and warm up, thaw the windshield. That wasn't fucking working the other day. Like, it was just too goddamn cold for that to make a fucking difference at all. So I go and I get not the paint scraper, the ice scraper. I was out there chucking at this for maybe 5 minutes. Dude, my hands were fucking numb for like an hour and a half. Like, could not feel it. I drove to work with like my palms because I couldn't feel a single one of my fingers. Oh. And so when you talk about cold weather in football, That's a big fucking deal if you can't feel your fucking fingers. And 10 minutes. We're talking about a game that lasts 3.5 hours.
And Vegas is not used to the cold. They play indoors and they're in the desert. I mean, it gets cold in Vegas, but they're not. They play inside, so they don't deal with that. I bet they practice exclusively inside too. So yeah, not a fun time, I'm sure. But I do like the Raiders +2. Ultimately, I think Josh Jacobs can get it done. I'm not a big Najee guy, so even if there's a fucking blizzard going on, I still think Vegas ends up winning because of Josh Jacobs. My last lock, I have Nick Chubb over 80.5 rushing yards. I saw they had a little foot thing. However, they're still in the playoff hunt potentially.
No, they're not.
Yeah,
no, they're fucking. They need a lot of help.
Let me get it pulled up as I talk. Either way, there is at least team morale you're playing for, right? Nick Chubb is going to be someone who will be featured heavily in the snow, in the rain. And guess what? Kareem Hunt will too. They could both get 20. I could see them both get 20 carries. And Deshaun Watson throw it maybe 4 times. And they'll come out winning.
I don't know, man. The reports I read is Nick Chubb's foot thing. Yes, he got cleared to play, but good potential. He sees limited work. If it was me, I mean, you got to think about this. You want a few more years of Nick Chubb. And the last thing you want to do is put him in a situation where he's going to get injured. May it be for next year, may it be for that potential playoff, miracle or whatever you think is going to happen. I would dog the shit out of Kareem Hunt if it was me because he's walking after the year. He's going to go somewhere. I would beat the brakes off of Kareem Hunt in the snow. I mean, I know it sounds bad, but you got to think about your team like after this year, maybe potentially in the postseason. I want Cleveland to lose all the games that they can because we have their first round pick. So, like you said, just get that pick a little couple spots higher. But that's just my thought on it.
So if there's 3 games left, Cleveland 6-8, the Dolphins and the Chargers are 8-6. So there's a 2-game gap. So if either of those teams, which is not unfathomable to think potentially they lose 2 games maybe. If either of those 2 lose and Cleveland wins out, which I don't have Cleveland's schedule in front of me, but I'm sure it's not that bad these last few weeks, if I remember right, they could make the playoffs. It's Nick Chubb season. If he gets 15 carries, he's going for 80. And the deal with him is it only takes 1. He could bust like 3 of them for about 90.
Yeah, he could. I mean, he is just really good.
Dude, I've rostered him before, and it was 2020, and it was quite frustrating at times because all game, he'd have like 3 points, 4 points. And you're just like, God damn, like this sucks. This guy's supposed to be this all-world running back, and he never works out. And then fucking every time, dude, like it would be 5 minutes left, and they'd be up, he'd bust an 80-yarder just out of nowhere. Every time.
And he's every bit as good as Derrick Henry, but he's just not as big, so nobody really kind of gives him the respect that they give Derrick Henry. But I think he's every bit as good.
Is Nick Chubb a dynasty buy? He might have Derrick Henry longevity.
He might. I mean, anything you say about Derrick Henry also applies to Nick Chubb. I mean, yeah, he's got a lot of mileage at this point. But I'd rather have Nick Chubb than Dalvin Cook. I'd rather have Nick Chubb than Joe Mixon. I'd rather have Nick Chubb than, once you start talking, I'd rather have Nick Chubb than Alvin Kamara. Once you start talking about that draft class, those guys that are approaching their 30s, or are already 30, it's very easily for me, Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb. Those are the 2 I'd want out of that. Because those guys could still have value later on as a guy that might run it 10 times a game, but it's always 3 of them are at the goal line. I like that as a flex play in a deep dynasty.
I might actually go try live dynasty trade thoughts. I might go try to flip Christian Kirk and Dalvin Cook for Nick Chubb right after the season's over. I think Kirk's gonna be a low-end wide receiver 2, a high-end wide receiver 3.5 PPR leagues. He'll be fine. But Calvin Ridley's gonna be the dude. Kirk's not scoring.
I like that trade. I mean, I don't really know, like, that other team that I think has him is kind of one of those, like, made the playoffs. I think he's already out, but not a terrible roster, but also not a great one. I don't know. Be interesting.
All right, moving on. Loves and hates. Your first love, DJ Moore versus Detroit.
So here's a stat that I saw. DJ Moore in the slot was like low 40%. And then when Sam Darnold took over as quarterback, he is up around close to 70% in the slot. You know what Detroit can't do? They can't guard the slot. They cannot guard the slot. And you know what Detroit can do really good? They can stuff the run. So process of elimination on that one for me. I mean, I have DJ Moore in so many fucking leagues, and it's been beyond frustrating this year. But this is a week that I feel comfortable starting. And it's just for those reasons I said, is he's probably going to get a good amount of action in the slot. He might even fall in the end zone. I'm not expecting a huge game for him, but if you're on the bubble about a flex, I feel good about it.
Yeah, I like DJ Moore as well. He is frustrating to own, though, and a lot of it stems from the quarterback. He's a talented guy. They are playing in Charlotte, so it will be outside. It'll be a balmy 33, though, with 11-mile-per-hour gusts. So it's not like you can't play in that, especially from the slot. Like short routes, he should be fine. First love. Oh, go ahead.
He's a guy in Dynasty that screams buy low, but then also buy low with caution. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. Sam Darnold isn't the guy. Where do they sit after the season? Love the talent, but hate the situation. And that's kind of where we're at with him. I mean, I'm holding because I haven't had anything more than a third come my way or something fucking stupid like that. High second, I might think about it right now, but that's just me.
Yeah, you just want that quarterback situation to get fixed. You assume Bryce Young goes to Houston. I don't like CJ Stroud. So, I mean.
Neither. But I think.
And who says they go quarterback? They've invested so much in that position. Who says they don't just let Sam Darnold play again? Worst outcome, they suck, and they get another high pick and a way better quarterback class.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, they're in that weird medium where I think teams that'll go quarterback potentially before them is definitely Houston. I think Bryce Young to Houston's about as sure of a thing as it can get right now. CJ Stroud or Will Levis, I think either one could go second. I like Indy to take a quarterback. I like, I think maybe Las Vegas fucks around. Maybe Pittsburgh fucks around. There's a lot of teams that might just do it.
Yeah. My first love, Jerick McKinnon versus Seattle. Is McKinnon good?
I think he is very good in this system, but he is also very hot and cold. It's a gamble.
Used him like he has been used these last 3 or 4 weeks.
Right.
So maybe it's that. So he has 2 straight 30-point games. I wouldn't expect that. However, since week 9, this has been how many targets he's seen per game. 8, 8, 1, 6, 2, 9, and 8. That is 4 games with 8 or more, 1 game with 6, and then 2 under 3. That's really good. He's essentially functioning. Travis Kelce is the 1, Juju's the 2, Jerick's the 3, and Juju and Jerick McKinnon are right there. They're very close target-wise. I like that, especially in a Patrick Mahomes offense, especially with his explosiveness. I think against a bad Seattle defense, we're going to see McKinnon continue to hit the home run play. I don't think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to come back on this team. He just won't. Pacheco and McKinnon have been perfectly fine, and I think that's probably the combo they want to roll with. Yeah, that's probably the best one for them. I like Pacheco. I knew he wasn't going to be as good as people were saying, but he's a solid player. I think next year he might have some real value. So, yeah, I really like McKinnon. I like Pacheco too. But look for McKinnon in Kansas City to continue to roll in a game where they need to continue to win to secure home field advantage.
I agree. McKinnon these last few weeks is what we all hoped Clyde would be, right? And it's just not there. It's just, I don't think it's ever going to be. I think I don't think they move on from him because he is still on a rookie deal. But, when that 5th year comes around, which should be, I think they have to opt in or out. Maybe this offseason, maybe the next one. I don't really know. There's no way that they do it. And that'll make him a 4-year guy, and then he'll move on. So I don't think they get rid of him because he's just too cheap right now. That cap situation can't be good. He gives them a little bit of depth, if nothing else. But I think Pacheco is the guy. We did our rookie draft prior to me even knowing who the fuck he was. I had no goddamn idea who Isaiah Pacheco was. And we have a lot of Chiefs fanboys in our league, and he got drafted in the 4th round. And I remember watching that pick and thinking, who the fuck is that?
I laughed.
I did too. Yeah, I did too. I was like, this guy's going to be a 4th-string running back on this team. Why? And we were wrong. But, yeah, I like McKinnon. I think he has – you're not going to get 30 points every week, but I think he has a safe – he's kind of in that same boat as Ramondre. He gets enough passing work to even, offset his lackluster rushing. That's kind of what it is. Ramondre's got a 10.4, and I think McKinnon's got every bit of the same thing for the rest of the season.
Yeah. I like McKinnon. He's an interesting player, and like I said, if they keep him next year, I could see an avenue where he's actually a top 24 running back.
Yeah.
Drop Clyde if it's just Pacheco and McKinnon. I'd have McKinnon as like RB 24 to 16, somewhere in there, just depending on where they were talking about his volume being at.
Yeah,
and if
I'd have to see how camp went.
But your next love, Ramondre Stevenson versus Cincinnati, going on to another pass-catching running back.
Yeah, it's kind of exactly what I was just saying, is they have such a high floor when they catch that volume, right? Doesn't matter how good they run the ball, their game script doesn't matter to those type of guys. Now, the Chiefs and the Patriots are in very different game scripts, but it really doesn't matter because Ramondre is the best receiver on that team. He's the one Matt goes to the most. Matt Patricia, must be dating his sister or something because he gets all the action in the pass game almost. Just very volume positive type of guy. And I like him as a runner. I'd love to see him play on a team that wasn't, no offense, that bad. He might be an absolute stud, but he's kind of stuck behind whatever dumb shit Matt Patricia does, which, fantasy wise is going fairly well for him. But yeah, I love him in this game. I think there's going to be a lot of it with bad weather. Mac Jones struggling. He can't get the ball down the field. Ramondre's going to eat.
Yeah, so I'm trying to see. I think I like Ramondre Stevenson this week. However, I think that Damian Harris is going to be active this week. I'm making sure, but if Damian Harris is active,
I don't really see that.
It's a game time decision. There we go. So if Damian Harris plays, I see a world where he low-key gets quite a bit of work. Ramondre Stevenson's been on the injury report. He had that fuck up last week. I could see Damian Harris getting some run. That's some very Bill Belichick shit to do. And when was the last time we saw Damian Harris? He's not been in the offense, and he does add a little bit of a different element to the offense.
Different player, yeah.
More of a not explosive, but more of a between the tackles, make you miss, get chunk plays sometimes. I like Damian Harris, but he could see quite a bit of work actually, even though he's been out for a while. So that would be my only caveat is if he's active. But other than that, Stevenson will still see all the pass work. So I like Stevenson. I'm not very high on Mac, even though they're just playing Cincinnati. He'll get a lot of time, but if they don't score, he only gets 40 receiving yards. That's really not that much.
Damian Harris, he's that guy that this year he's just been riddled with injuries because I know he spent a good chunk of time out, which kind of led to the rise of Ramondre, so to speak. He came back. He had a couple of good games as far as like averages. Like, he ran the ball 6-7 times, got 60 yards. Things looked really good. He went in for half a game. He was injured again. Longevity with him, I don't really know. Like, will he even make it through a whole nother game? Like, he's been that type of injury this year. So, will he still work if he plays? Absolutely. But does he even make it through the whole game? That'd be my thing.
I don't disagree. That is the issue with Damian Harris. So my last love, Kareem Hunt, take exactly what we talked about with Nick Chubb, put it down to Hunt. I wouldn't be shocked if both of these guys see 20 carries. I really wouldn't. It might be Hunt's last home game. It probably is. I'm sure he goes somewhere else. Yeah. He's been limited these last 5 or 6 weeks. He's seen at most 6 carries in the last 6 weeks. That's just it's not conducive for fantasy success. However, the weather conditions are going to make this one a run it out game. Even if Nick Chubb doesn't get 80% of the workload, he'll still get a lot. Hunt will get a lot. I think we're just going to see a lot of run game. I would check if you're looking for a sports bet and you have free bets for Christmas. FanDuel's doing them. I also got $12 from FanDuel. I'm a degenerate, so they gave me money for Christmas because they know I'm just going to lose with them. I would go check the Hunt and Chubb anytime touchdown and rushing over parlay lines and maybe place that because I could see that going over.
Yeah. I definitely like Hunt this week. They're such a weird team. Like, the roster says they should be a lot better than they really are. I don't know what Stefanski's doing. Like I said, I've got this long-standing conspiracy theory that Stefanski is going to be out after this year. Insert Brian Flores. I think that was probably a Deshaun Watson term of him going there type of thing. Like, I think it goes way deeper than one would think. Because if he would have went to the fucking Saints or they'd be a playoff team, in my opinion. But anyway, yes, I do like Kareem Hunt this week. Bad weather calls for lots of run game, and I think he's, like I said before, he's the one that they know is going to walk. I'd save Hunt or Chubb as much as I can and just beat the brakes off of Kareem Hunt.
And that might happen. I still think if Chubb even gets 10 carries, he probably gets close to 80. I'll call on the sideline and let him know I need a couple more.
He stops at 65, and you're like, hey.
I'll go on the dark web.
I'll get 3 more.
I'll go on the dark web and have some little 14-year-old hacker kid find the phone number for the field and fucking. What's up, big dog?
I need this parlay to hit.
All right, going on to hates. Your first hate. Gardner Minshew versus Dallas. Why?
Just a nasty fucking defense for a guy like Gardner Minshew to go up against. I mean, I'm a Gardner Minshew fan, but here's a reality of it. He has sat on the bench the entire year. Insert him into a game with a very playmaking defense like Dallas. I bet he throws 1 to 2 interceptions just because they are very good at that. I'm not saying they don't win this game, but I just don't think he has a stellar performance. I know a lot of you Jalen Hurts owners are really turning to that thinking it's going to pan out, but Jalen Hurts is a fantasy quarterback, right? Like he is the kind of guy that produces. Gardner Minshew is not going to be that. He might win the game, but it's going to be ugly, and I'd be surprised if he gets over like 13 points.
Are you ready for the take? You're not ready for the take. Here's the take. Give it the same attention in terms of game planning and play selection, and the same commitment in terms of getting weapons. Gardner Minshew would do every bit as well as Jalen Hurts as the starting quarterback.
He can't run like Jalen.
But he throws better than Jalen.
I don't think so.
I think so. I guarantee it. I know he does. Gardner's a good quarterback. The Eagles system and situation uplifts the quarterback and the head coach right now. A guy like Gardner could be in the same path of ascension, again, given that same type of detail. Jalen Hurts isn't really that good. He's good. He's a top 20 quarterback, but he's not a top 15 guy in real life.
Oh, okay. I was like, dude, he's like top 3.
Because of a bad schedule. In fantasy, it's different, but in real life, Minshew can do just as well, record-wise.
Yeah, but we're not talking about real life. We're talking about a fantasy play, or I just don't see him having a good fantasy outing.
My take out.
Huh?
I wanted my take to be out, so when he throws for 300 tomorrow, I can look what I said.
Yeah, but also,
I also don't think it's gonna happen. I think they can win, but it'll be ugly. I don't think
that's what I just said.
I know. I was just trying to get my real life take out. I want that one record. My hate, Geno Smith and the wide receivers for Seattle going up against Kansas City. I think that in the cold weather against a Spagnuolo defense that's going to blitz a lot, with a good defensive line, with all the running backs questionable right now, I don't trust Geno Smith. And then Tyler Lockett and Metcalf. If Geno Smith's not playing well, they're not going to play well. So I don't see Seattle scoring a lot here. Kansas City's defense isn't great or anything, but with the way they play, I think Seattle's going to struggle a little bit. And I just wouldn't want to trust those guys over maybe other viable options in that same range with better matchups.
I agree.
It'll be degrees in Kansas City. So it'll be fucking cold.
Yeah. I mean, the Geno Smith story's been a good one. Like, the super hot beginning of the year, they've kind of cooled off. Things are not going so well here as of late. I think they're definitely not winning that division, which we all thought they would at one point. They're kind of going to fight for a playoff. God damn it, playoff spot. And Geno Smith's kind of struggled lately. He hasn't been blowing the top off of defenses. Good on him, man. Guy made the Pro Bowl for the first time at 32 years old. Been a good story this year, but ultimately, they still have a question mark at quarterback a year or 2 or 3 from now. So
he's gonna be a Peyton Hillis type of guy. Like, you're gonna be like, remember when that guy made the Pro Bowl?
Yeah, he was on the cover of Madden that one year too.
I don't
remember what year that was, like 12 or something.
It was 2012, and he.
I remember. What was it? 10? Was 10 the Vince Young year?
Oh wait, that was the first one I had. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wait, I played the fuck out of that one.
I logged a lot of GameCube. That was my first Madden game. Man, I fell in love fast. I cheated. Yeah. I put all the best players on my team. Yeah. And if I lost, I quit and restarted. But I played the shit out of it. So Kansas City at 12 is going to feel like 1 p.m. Or it's going to feel like 1 degrees. I just don't think that Seattle's going to like that. And Seattle's cold, but not the same as Kansas windy cold.
Yeah, and this is a thing that happens every year that people tend to forget is weather, right? This time of year, fantasy, playoffs and the next week fantasy championships are always played through the shittiest weather. And you can have the greatest team in the world, but Like I was telling you earlier, dude, like this cold, like your hands hurt, it's hard to even think. Your body hurts. When you get hit, it hurts more. Like that's why like getting to the championship and the playoffs is one thing, but then at this point, like really anything could happen. You're just trying to take calculated risks at this point. And that's the way I think about it, because football is a lot different of a game when it's September or October, warm outside, you play up to your ability, weather's always good. Now you're going out to where, I mean, you saw the Buffalo Bills Stadium last week, right? That shit was fucking buried. And you're like, oh. Huh?
They were throwing snowballs and got warned.
Yeah. Yeah. So Kansas weather, let us tell you about it, because it's been fucking bad. Like, it was -5 yesterday. And what did it feel like? The wind chill made it feel -20 or 25 or something.
It was -30 at one point yesterday.
Like, this is the kind of cold that takes your breath away. And if there's anybody watching from more of a northern state, like, I apologize for disrespecting your guys' cold, because I know it's worse. I work with a guy he's from Wisconsin, one of the guys that works for me. And he's like, yeah, this is kind of how it is back home, but add a couple more feet of snow. Like, and I'm like, okay. Yeah, like I get it. Like it is worse other places, but some of these teams that aren't used to that are probably going to go out and struggle this week. Those warm weather teams.
Oh, yeah. While we're thinking about weather, we only have 2 more hates. So while we're thinking about weather, should they let the Super Bowl be played in a stadium like Buffalo that's open in the north?
No. I mean, I don't think so. Personally, I know the Bills are talking about getting a new stadium. They're doing some, they're in the planning period of that. Good for that fan base, man. You know as well as I do, outside of the last 5 years, like the Bills were a fucking abysmal team. They were not good. They spent at least the majority of my life just getting absolutely raped by the Patriots, the Dolphins some years, even the Jets. Like they were the worst team in that division for a long, 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 long time. Yep. I'm glad that they are on the up. Revenue's up for them. They're getting a stadium. I can't believe that an open top stadium is still what they want to do. Like that's what I read. I don't know if that's still true, but
it's because of the environment the fans have. It gets crazy as fuck.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and the Bills fan base is the wildest fan base that I have seen. I get it. I do, and that's what they're about, and I guess that's just a part of playing, football for the Buffalo Bills. But goddamn, like, why is that even a thing? You got these southern teams that have domes, right? Well, like,
why?
Why? Does it ever snow? And doesn't New Orleans have a dome? They do, don't they?
New Orleans does, but there's some nasty hurricanes in New Orleans, so I can kind of understand why you want a dome.
Yeah, but if there's a hurricane, they play it somewhere else. That's just the way that goes. Same thing with Tampa. Like if there's bad hurricane weather, they just move it.
I'm not familiar with Louisiana weather enough to. I agree, Atlanta, Louisiana. I could see potentially Gulf Coast storms being an issue.
Well, New Orleans is. So the thing about hurricanes in New Orleans is under sea level. That's the fucking reason they get destroyed all the time.
Yeah.
New Orleans, the city of New Orleans is under sea level. So when that shit washes in, it just fucks them up. Kind of the same thing like Oklahoma and tornadoes. It's flat as shit. They get fucking plowed. I'm not trying to be, not understanding of situations, but that's the geographical facts of those two areas. Oklahoma gets plowed by tornadoes. Fucking New Orleans gets plowed by hurricanes. You know what we get fucked by? Wind. because there's nothing in Kansas. We're flat as it gets, boys.
Yeah. Your next hate, DeAndre Hopkins versus Tampa Bay. Wait, let's breeze through these because there's one last thing I want to get to. It's fucking hilarious. So let's breeze through these hates.
Okay.
And one last NFL thing.
So DeAndre Hopkins, I was really hyped on the value that people were getting DeAndre Hopkins in out of the draft. I mean, he was going super late because of the suspension. So they're at a point where they're starting Trace McSorley because Colt McCoy's out. I can't believe that, I'm at a point where I wouldn't play DeAndre Hopkins, but I just have no real reason to. I think Kingsbury's on his way out. We talked about that earlier. Just don't love Hopkins this week, and I'm a big Hopkins fan most of the time, but I just don't think it's going to be there for him. That's just my take on it.
Yeah, Trace McSorley is not going to be helpful. It's not going to be good. DeAndre Hopkins is usually pretty quarterback proof, but man, I don't know, even in this situation. My last hate is Kamara. They just don't let the guy run down the middle, ever, all. And because of that, in a game where you're going to have to run the ball between the tackles, he's just not going to do as well. They don't use him well, period. And since they won't be able, well, that takes away a lot of the value that they allow him to have. Because again, they don't give him the requisite amount of usage that he should be getting for his talent level. Okay, to finish it up, this is about my favorite thing that I've heard about. I'm curious if you've heard about it. I'm sure a lot of people haven't. Are you familiar with the Kansas City Chiefs superfan who was robbing banks on the way to games to fund his lifestyle?
Robbing banks?
Yes.
No, dude, I haven't heard a word about this. Is it Wayne?
No. So preface this. I follow a lot of Kansas basketball Twitter, which Kansas basketball Twitter overlaps with Kansas City Chiefs Twitter.
Yeah.
There's some backstory here as I talk about the story that I'll throw in. There was a super fan that wore a wolf costume. He was like the number one guy, the number one fan. He went to every game in this fucking wolf costume. And he had a Twitter, again, wolf costume all over this. It was very common. So he did not show up to the Kansas City Houston game, which was weird because he traveled to all the games. Well, on the way to the game, in the wolf mask that he wears at the games, he went and robbed a bank near Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the cops just came and got him. Now, you would say, oh, is this a one-off incident? However, allegedly, these Chiefs fans have been saying for years that this guy, how does he have this money? So the story is that he's been robbing small-town banks in this fucking wolf costume for years, and he finally got caught. Now, I don't know how in this day and age that happens, but I don't know, in those redneck small towns, I'm sure it's not the same as in a big city, even a mid-sized city like Wichita.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess that's probably where he fucked up, is Tulsa's a fairly big city in Oklahoma. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, it's probably the second biggest city in Oklahoma next to Oklahoma City. That's probably where he fucked up, but you don't think we would have heard about this sooner? If it's been a span over a few years, hey, this fucking guy in a KC Wolf.
Here's the other thing. He had bet a fuck ton of money and he was showing it off. And it was an unreasonable amount, a six-figure bet that the book accepted for some reason. And then he tweeted, I make good living, plus I hustle in private. House money I'm playing with, to be honest. Hustle in private? Yeah. Yeah, see?
You're robbing banks, huh?
Fucking hilarious.
Jesus, man. Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's the only way I could these people that travel to every game have got to be very wealthy, because you got to think about it. You go from Houston to Cincinnati the next week to Seattle to, it's all over the fucking place. Like normal people like me and you can't fucking afford to do that.
Yeah, season tickets are one thing. Like, even if you make a modest amount, you can budget correctly to afford them.
They're a couple grand, like I think is what a season ticket holder pays most of the time.
Mm-hmm. So you could get that fairly reasonably. And they let you pay it off in months. They don't make you pay it all in once, if I remember correctly. So that would be, that's workable. But yeah, traveling every week, you're probably staying there nights, one night. That's expensive.
You gotta think you're gonna be traveling to any place in the country probably at least 8 times a year. 8, 9 times a year.
Yep.
I couldn't do it, dude. I can barely travel to work and back sometimes. You know what I mean?
So that's the Chiefs fan that robbed banks in his wolf costume. Fun story. If you're not familiar with it, Pardon My Take, which is a good podcast. It used to be better. They have a good little clip about it on Facebook. So that's a fun story. We'll end it at that. Good luck, guys. Merry Christmas. I hope that Fantasy Jesus blesses you all on his birthday, as I hope he does for me. So have a good weekend, guys. Enjoy time with your family. We will see you next week.